So, guess what movie I finally got to watch? That's right. I have finally watched Shin Godzilla, and I'm going to do a review. Now, yes, I do know that there was a limited release and all that, and not everyone got to see it. So, for sake of spoilers, because I will be talking about spoilers in this film, if you don't want to be spoiled, please back out of the video now. I'll give you guys a couple seconds to do that. Okay, so I'm guessing if you're still here, you've seen the movie, or you want to get spoiled about the film. This, I honestly say, because I didn't know I was going to be able to see this film beforehand. I didn't know if I was going to be able to see this film this year, and had I known that and given foresight to just wait until I saw the movie or something like that, because this would definitely be in my top 10 list. Honestly, I might actually redo the list at this point. I might, but who knows? It's already been said and done. But yeah, this would definitely be in at least somewhere in the top 10 movies of 2016. I know this film has been very polarizing for the fandom, for the Godzilla fandom, and I can understand why, but I have an argument for it. I have a defense for it. Now, this film is just like, I compare this film very much so to the 1954 film, where in that film it showed a lot of the geopolitical aspects in 1954 of Japan at that time, of the effect of using Godzilla as a vehicle for talking about nuclear war and its effect on Japan. This is very much the same story. Granted, Godzilla gets a little more screen time in that movie than this one, but that's neither here nor there. In here, this film is very much the same way of 54, in that it is very much a vehicle, using Godzilla as a vehicle for showing the geopolitical state of Japan in its time, right now. So, this film is Hideki Anno, the director of the film, was very disenfranchised by the Japanese government when he created this film, along with everyone else, in a lot of Japanese people in general. So when he created this film, he really wanted to make it a movie about the political aspects of Japan and where it stands, not only in the country, but where that government stands in the whole world. I gotta say, that's pretty interesting. I gotta say that this was, I know not, when you go to a Godzilla film, you expect to see Godzilla just wreck shit, and I assure you, when you see him, he does in fact wreck shit to the nth degree. But the main drive of this film is that, much like in 54, this is a film talking about Japan Japan and its government and how it deals with certain situations of its time. Much like, again, in 54, this does the same thing. And, yeah, I was watching this with my dad, and my dad's actually really big into, the geopolitical aspects of the world, and he's always interested in that, so he was more excited to see, there was almost a point where I think he got more excited to see, what goes on in the war room than Godzilla, and he's an equally as big Godzilla fan as I am. So, I find that hysterical. But yeah, this film... Godzilla himself. Let's talk a bit about Godzilla himself. This version of Godzilla, I like it. Granted, I knew ahead of time that Godzilla kind of evolves in the film. That kind of got spoiled for me a bit. That Godzilla does evolve in the film. So when I first saw him, and when my dad and I first saw Godzilla, waddling on the ground like a Pokemon, literally, no, Godzilla's, I guess, second form, I guess, Godzilla's second form, or fourth form, whatever, the one that waddles around, it literally looked like a Pokemon, and we looked at each other and went, he's not like that the whole movie, right? But when he stands up and does the classic roar, it's like, oh, that's great. And then when he gets to his fourth form, and it's kind of funny, when Godzilla stood up for the first time, when he evolved into his next form, I literally said in my head, you fools, this isn't even my final form yet. Yep, couldn't resist. But no, I do like this design for Godzilla. It's so haunting. It's so... just so menacing, really. And I know the arms look kind of dopey, but I think it adds to the character of this version of Godzilla that is, meant to be a a awareness for for nuclear disaster. And Godzilla, he looks like all these radiation burns all over him. It makes sense to make him look like that. The new powers I also like. I equally love the new powers that Godzilla can now display. Like, I love the back lasers. I think they're awesome. And my dad and I were watching the movie, and we were like, oh, that is so cool. Like, when he just shoots the lasers out of his back and out of his tail. And I know people are like, oh, that's a dumb power. And I was like, oh yeah, it's not like Godzilla had any other dumb powers, like suddenly becoming magnetic or jumping into the air and flying by using his atomic breath to direct himself, right? That's never happened. To each his own, but I think this is kind of cool. It's a new Godzilla for a new era. It's even unknown because, yeah, Toho would be I think Toho is talking heavily about doing a sequel or another Godzilla film. It could easily be like the Millennium thing, where it could be a reboot and just another version of Godzilla. That could equally be the case. But I think it would be cool to do something else with it and bring in new versions of, classic kaiju like Rodan and Ghidorah, Mothra, and Gearus. It's all cool. I think they've got something really cool here, and I really dig all the characters in here. They are all great. All of them all the human characters give off phenomenal performances, in my opinion. There's a great speech by Izumi. I think that's his name. Izumi gives off a great speech that, like, it almost feels like you get flashbacks to Independence Day, the first one, not the shitty sequel. Not to say that the first movie's great in any way, shape or form. Excuse me. But yeah, it's very, like, you get a sense of, like, it's almost like Independence Day level speech. Because here's the thing, for those who don't know, Japan after World War II, went under some serious regulations, and they cannot do literally anything without informing the UN and the US first. And yeah, the US does play heavily in here than it does in any other Godzilla film, because yeah, in a crisis like this, the US would be in this situation because we have a base in Okinawa, and we have very heavy ties to the Japan, excuse me, and it's literally, Godzilla's literally in our, the coast. So we're literally in this area, so this would involve us. And what I like about this is that the movie doesn't treat the Americans like a bunch of bullies. It's more like they're trying to protect their own, and they realize that if this doesn't work, then, where else is Godzilla going to go if he's looking for radiation? We have several nuclear facilities in America, so what's to stop Godzilla after he's done with, Japan to come over here? Anyway, but I do like how that the Japanese, even though they don't mind the help from the Americans, they want to deal with it themselves. Because they know that, yeah, much like in the 84 film, they want to drop a nuclear device on Godzilla to, just to test the strength of it, much like in the 84 film. So, I really enjoy, so all in all, I think this is a very well-structured film. I think that, this movie has a lot going for it, and I can understand the complaints, but I was very invested in the political aspect of this, much like, because again, it reminded me so much of the 54 movie. So yeah, I really enjoyed this movie. I loved every little aspect of it. Godzilla's new powers are great. The characters were really likable, because they have to be likable. You had to follow them around all the goddamn time. But yeah, so if you haven't seen it, seriously, go check out Shin Godzilla. But keep in mind, you are going to be spending a lot of time in this war room and following, like, the political aspects of the political ramifications of this. So just to give you a heads up on that. But anyway, so you guys tell me, what did you guys think of Godzilla? Did you guys like it? Did you guys hate it? Just comment below, let me know. And once again, hope you all enjoyed this, and I will see you guys later.